This is episode 2. Please watch and enjoy. Max tried to stab the sleeping protagonist but noticed something strange, which left him puzzled. His friend asked what was wrong, and when Max pulled back the blanket, he found a wooden frame and 2 pillows tied together. Realizing the protagonist wasn't there, Max shouted, "He's gone!" The rest of the group was shocked by the discovery. Chev angrily ordered them to find the protagonist, insisting he couldn't have gotten far. Suddenly, an explosion erupted, catching Chev off guard and sending him flying. Meanwhile, the protagonist was perched in a tree, observing them from a safe distance. One of the group members asked what caused the fire and urged the others to secure the food and supplies. Chev, now visibly frustrated, questioned if all this chaos was the protagonist's doing. One of the goons pointed something out to Chev, who turned to see a massive yellow monster towering over them. Fear filled Chev's eyes as he accused the protagonist of setting them up. The monster roared fiercely, causing Chev to shout at the protagonist, accusing him of using them as bait. The group frantically jumped down from the tree, but the monster attacked their base, completely destroying it. From his vantage point, the protagonist silently watched the chaos unfold, thinking to himself how unskilled and naive they were. He mused that if they intended to deceive him, they shouldn't have shown such mercy. Reflecting further, the protagonist considered the gate they were in, a place where even veteran adventurers from over a dozen parties had failed. Such an environment made it clear the group had been plotting something against him. As they ran for their lives, the protagonist deduced that the massive yellow monster was the area's boss. He had suspected it from the broken remnants they'd encountered earlier but hadn't expected it to be this enormous. The monster relentlessly pursues the group as they flee. While running, Chev points out that the monster's type puts them at a severe disadvantage. One of the teammates asks Chev if he recognizes the creature. Glancing back, Chev hesitantly identifies it as a gold slime, a rare boss monster that only appears in Maple World's Red Gates. He explains that its body is composed of acid, making it the worst possible opponent for melee adventurers like them. Before he can elaborate further, the monster surprises him, prompting Chev to shout for everyone to dodge. The monster unleashes a stream of lava-like acid, forcing Chev to shove a teammate out of harm's way. Stunned, he asks aloud what that attack was. Another party member yells in disbelief, questioning if the monster also has ranged attacks. Chev clarifies that it was an acid arrow, a skill allowing the creature to launch its body's acid. Shocked, one teammate exclaims that it feels like the monster is cheating. Chev tells him to pull himself together as the monster closes in. While they keep running, one of them frantically asks how they can deal with the monster and if there's any way to defeat it. Chev advises retreating first, noting that the acid arrow has a 1-minute cooldown. He explains they need to recover and wait for a chance to strike, aiming for the core in the monster's head. Max, however, misinterprets this as an opportunity. Confidently, he glances back and confirms the monster's skill is on cooldown. Without waiting for the group, he recklessly charges toward the monster, declaring he can take it down while it's vulnerable. Chev yells for Max to wait, insisting they need to attack together. But it's too late. The monster effortlessly counters, splitting Max in half, making him the first casualty of the group. This is what he gets for being too cocky. In shock and horror, Chev stares at the monster, struggling to process what just happened. He murmurs that the skill should still have over 10 seconds of cooldown. However, the monster wastes no time, unleashing another acid arrow that annihilates the entire group in an instant. The protagonist watches helplessly, realizing the fight is over. Reflecting on the events, he notes that Chev wasn't entirely wrong, but gold slimes consume items and grow stronger, drastically reducing their cooldown times. Observing the monster's abnormal size and near-instantaneous acid arrow usage, he deduces why all previous parties failed. The monster has outgrown its class, now powerful enough to fit the difficulty of a yellow gate, 2 levels above a red gate, and far beyond what a first circle adventurer team can handle. Accepting the mission as a failure, he considers the dungeon's barren state, certain no items remain. However, He remembers Abby's earlier words urging him to prove himself. Smiling faintly at the thought of what Abby's told him earlier, the monster continued to lumber forward until it suddenly noticed something. A projectile struck its face, and now it was face to face with the protagonist. Calmly, the hero asked if it was due to the monster's high magic resistance as he aimed directly at its core. He calculated it would take 4 or 5 more shots to finish it. Not that it matters, he thought, smiling at the challenge. Determined, he declared he would prove himself to the monster. The gold slime retaliated with an acid arrow, but the protagonist leaped away, the attack splattering against a nearby tree. Undeterred, the monster unleashed a barrage of arrows, but the hero dodged them all midair. While maneuvering through the relentless assault, he activated his telekinesis ring, tossing a knife tied to a rope to the ground. Focused, he thought to himself that hitting the exact same spot without error was critical, a technique no ordinary mage would dare attempt. As he evaded the acid barrage, he reminded himself of one of his titles from a past life, the best telekinetic. Using his skill's fire arrow, he launched a precise fire arrow that successfully struck the monster. The creature counterattacked, and the hero calculated he'd need 4 more hits to bring it down. Swinging from a tree with the rope, he narrowly avoided the encroaching acid while stepping off the tree trunk to redirect his momentum. Using that force, he fired another fire arrow mid-swing, landing another blow. 3 more strikes, he thought. The battle raged on as the protagonist dodged the continuous attacks with acrobatic precision. From above, he delivered another fiery strike, leaving only 2 hits remaining. While he was in mid-air, he shoots another fire arrow towards the monster. Dropping to the ground, he thought to himself on how fast the monster dodges despite its enormous size. With the telekinesis ring, he smirked at how futile the monster's dodges were. Guiding the arrow mid-flight, he struck the creature's face, shattering a large portion and exposing its glowing core. Seizing the opportunity, the hero leaped high into the air, determination blazing in his eyes. Activating his staff skill, he prepared to deliver the final, decisive blow. Last strike, he declared as he closed in on the core. But just as he was about to land the hit, the monster raised its massive hand, ready to slam him down in a desperate counterattack. The monster prepared to counterattack, raising its hands to slam the protagonist. Sensing the danger, the protagonist quickly activated his telekinesis ring. Grabbing a knife attached to a rope, he hurled it onto the ground and dodged as the monster's powerful slam struck the earth. Sliding across the ground, he readied his staff's fire arrow skill. The blazing arrow shot toward the monster, but it reacted swiftly, attempting to block the attack with its hands. The protagonist smirked, manipulating the arrow's trajectory using the telekinesis ring. With a sudden shift, the arrow narrowly slipped beneath the monster's defenses, striking its face and hitting the core. Cracks began forming on the core as the monster's body swelled, preparing to explode. Moments later, it erupted in a massive fireball, forcing the protagonist to dash away. Acidic lava spewed out, spreading rapidly like a deadly wave, closing in on him as he ran. Thinking quickly, he activated the telekinesis ring again, throwing the rope-bound knife onto a tree branch. He climbed swiftly just as the lava surged below like a fiery tsunami. From the safety of the tree, he gazed down at the destruction. The acidic lava engulfed the entire area, incinerating everything in its path. After the chaos subsided, the protagonist climbed down from the tree and began walking farther into the area. Soon, something on the ground caught his attention, a faint red glow. Using his telekinesis ring, he summoned the glowing red orb into his hand. Examining it closely, he noticed it growing brighter before he started absorbing its power. Successfully harnessing the orb's energy, he continued his journey. Meanwhile, back at Abby's place, the protagonist sat across from him in silence. Abby's, observing the quiet demeanor, remarked, "You're not much of a talker, are you?" Breaking the silence, Abby's inquired, "Back on your own again? And without the item you were commissioned to retrieve?" The protagonist explained that he had initially teamed up with newbie hunters. However, They turned out to be troublemakers aiming to steal his items. To avoid confrontation, he distanced himself from them. Shortly after, they encountered the dungeon's boss monster and perished. Abby's pressed, "A monster killed them?" The protagonist replied, "It was the gold slime." This revelation shocked Abby's. "What? That bastard? If it was the gold slime, then everything inside must have..." Before he could finish, the protagonist interrupted. "Yes, it all melted away." Abby's thoughts in frustration. "Damn it. To think all the rented merchant union equipment was destroyed. This is a loss we can't overlook." He thought further that the real problem is that the protagonist came out alive. He explained further, the gates have strict rules. First, only a limited number of people, marked by the gate pillars, can enter. Once inside, the gate becomes inactive until everyone within is annihilated. Second, the gate has entrance restrictions tied to its difficulty and the adventurer's circle levels. Higher circle adventurers cannot enter lower difficulty gates. Third, there's only one chance to raid a gate. That's the biggest challenge when targeting gates. If anyone survives and escapes, the gate is destroyed and becomes inaccessible forever. So as long as the adventurers who entered the gate don't die, there will be no other chances. Abby's reflected, realizing the gate was already a lost cause. Well, he thought, a gold slime would have been too much for a first circle adventurer anyway. Turning to the protagonist, he said, "So, you barely survived, and since everything melted, I understand why you couldn't retrieve the items. But regardless of the reason, the fact remains, you failed." The protagonist interrupted him with a smirk. "You're so impatient. I haven't even finished my explanation yet." Abby's raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" The protagonist unwrapped his sleeve, revealing his arm. "The gold slime," he began. Abby's eyes widened in disbelief. "No, it can't be." The protagonist grinned, showing his arm with 2 circles. "I ate it." Abby staggered back in shock. "A second circle? Did you absorb the mana stone from the gold slime?" The protagonist nodded confidently. "I think this proves my worth. Now, as promised, promote me to E rank." Abby stared at him for a moment before shaking his head. "No, D rank." The protagonist blinked in disbelief. "What?" Abby's, now grinning, replied enthusiastically, "I'll give you D rank." "No. Work with me, and I'll treat you as a C rank adventurer." After hearing this surprising offer, the protagonist agreed and signed a contract. As he did, Abby's observed him, thinking to himself, promoting someone who isn't even a third circle to a C rank is excessive. But this one's different. He explained aloud, adventurer ranks are tied to circle levels. Veterans are A to B rank, juniors are C to D rank, and novices are E to F rank. Circles signify power, the difference is clear. But you're not normal. Circling up isn't something anyone can do just by absorbing a mana stone. Abby's recalled the protagonist mentioning his survival instincts. Smiling, he thought, yes, that's it. Not just instincts, overwhelming talent. He started as a first circle and returned as a second in no time. I've never seen growth like this. He looked at the protagonist and smiled, thinking, I need him. The protagonist, meanwhile, noticed the improvement in his treatment. Faster than expected, he mused. Abby's must be impatient. But his thoughts shifted to the looming deadline, the red-ranked gate's first 100-member raid. He considered how it had become the center of attention for Lithport's merchant union and guilds, and undoubtedly, the Gaffer Merchant Union was just as interested. No harm in speeding things up, he thought, deciding to move his plans forward. Abby's, he said, breaking the silence, I need a favor. Abby's tilted his head. What is it? Speak freely. The protagonist extended his hand. Lend me some money. Abby's froze, stunned by the bold request. His expression soured as he thought, this bastard. He's pushing it too far. This is the end of this chapter. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to not miss any update from my channel, and like the video, comment for the next episode if you guys want to see more of this series. Thanks for watching till the end, and I will see you all in the next episode.